Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the murder of Zoe Nilsen. Hello, I'm Brent, and this is Strange Embers. So I have my sister Tracy back with me again, and we're going to be talking about the murder of Zoe Nilsen tonight. This is a story from across the pond. So the murder of Zoe Nilsen was committed in a suburb of Wishaw, North Lancashire in Scotland on May the 22nd of 2010. 17-year-old Zoe Nilsen's extensively burned remains were found in the woods near a heap known locally as Monkey Hill, after her killer constructed a pyre in an attempt to destroy the evidence.
It's a good way to destroy evidence.
Forensic pathologist Julia Bell told the High Court in Edinburgh that the possibilities for a full post-mortem were limited because the body was too badly burnt, and that, quote, some form of throttling or suffocating was the most probable cause of death, which was recorded as unascertained, end quote. During their inquiries, police used new media for the first time in a murder investigation in an effort to reach out to local teenagers who may otherwise have not wanted to communicate with the police during the trial. Zoe Nilsen was a 17-year-old motor vehicle repair student at Motherwell College who lived with her mother, stepfather, and younger sister on the eastern edge of Wishaw. Both Zoe and her 16-year-old sister, Laura Ann, were involved in relationships with the same man, 20-year-old Robert Rab Bain.
So the 16-year-old was the younger one?
Yes.
And how old was Zoe?
17.
17, so they're like a year apart.
Yeah.
With a 20-year-old. All right.
Correct. And that was with Robert Rab Bain, who lived with his grandparents in Harper Crescent. Although the elder sister was also dating another local man, Ross Hemphill, Marion Nelson, the girl's mother, described how the sisters had argued about Bain outside of the home at around 5 p.m. on the 22nd of May. She said, quote, Laura Ann ran out and flicked Zoe's hair and tried to slap her in the face, and the two of them ended up having a fight at the end of the driveway. I split it up. I said, go away, you cow, and don't come back.
What?
She said she wouldn't come back, end quote.
The mother called one of the daughters a cow? That's not nice at all.
Isabel Park, Zoe's stepsister, said Zoe and Bain seemed, quote, a bit intoxicated, end quote, and that Laura Ann had been upset as, quote, she was supposed to be seeing Rab as well, end quote. So Zoe walks off with Bain, who was drinking from a bottle of tequila, and was not seen alive by her family again. By 5 p.m. on the 24th of May, after police had announced the discovery of a body, Miss Nelson reported her daughter as a missing person.
Oh, after they reported they had found a body, then she reported her missing.
Yeah. So at 4:20 on Sunday, May the 23rd of 2010, an off-road motorcycle rider said that he initially described as what he saw, quote, a sort of charred tailor's dummy, end quote.
A tailor's dummy, a mannequin?
Correct.
Okay.
In Woodland at Monkey Hill. As he approached, he realized that it was actually a corpse. In his testimony, he explained, quote, at first, I thought it was a mannequin, and what struck me was the leg. Possibly the left leg. I could see the bone there. Tailor's dummies don't have bones, end quote. The body was extensively charred, and he was unable to tell if it was a male or female. He immediately went to a nearby home, telephoned the police to report the discovery. When the police arrived, he led them to the scene, which Detective Sergeant Clifford Neal described it as gruesome. The body lay on a makeshift pyre and had heavy-duty plastic sheets partially melted to the facial area.
So murdered, wrapped, and transported, apparently, or probably, possibly, maybe.
Strathclyde Police launched a murder inquiry led by Detective Superintendent Derek Robertson of the force's Major Investigation Unit on May the 24th, following the results of a post-mortem examination. Near the body was a cap from a bottle of Sierra Silver tequila
Tequila.
in the shape of a red plastic sombrero, and a corresponding empty bottle was found on the other side of a small path nearby. Near 1 foot, police found another bottle which was tested for traces of accelerant. Laura Wilcock, a forensic scientist with specialist expertise in examining suspicious fires, concluded that the body could have been burned for up to 7 hours, and very little of it was undamaged by the burning. The palm of the right hand remained relatively undamaged, and this was swabbed for DNA evidence. The extensive burning of the body hampered pathologists from asserting a cause of death, and Dr. Julia Bell, a forensic pathologist at the University of Glasgow Medical School, said that the possibilities for a full post-mortem were limited. Bell said she was unable to completely exclude the possibility that setting the teenager on fire had killed her, but she believed that the findings were not suggestive of this. While the natural instinct of a person on fire would be to move, there was no evidence of this, probably because Zoe was unconscious or dead. Examination of Zoe's respiratory tract did not demonstrate soot in the quantities of which would indicate that she had been breathing, and scientists would have been able to carry out blood analysis, which might have provided further proof.
Yeah, because typically, if you are alive, you may be unconscious or incapacitated during a fire. You would breathe in the smoke fumes and have evidence
Right.
in your air passageways.
Because even unconscious, you're still breathing.
Yeah. And the blood typically shows like higher levels of carbon dioxide.
Examination of the tequila bottle found near the body found a mix of Zoe's blood and adipose tissue from the bottle.
Fat tissue.
Forensic scientist Marie Campbell stated that this was normally the result of a wounding injury causing bleeding and body fat to become mixed, and that similar results were observed on knife examinations after stabbings. In this instance, the stains on the tequila bottle did not have the distinctive pattern that she would have expected if the bottle had been used directly as a weapon.
So the bottle could have just transported the accelerant.
Possibly.
Or could have been the tequila the killer was drinking.
When found, the body had a plastic bag partially melted over much of the face, bruising inside the lip, 2 black eyes, and bleeding inside of her skull.
Oh.
Pathologists said some form of throttling or suffocating was the most probable cause of death.
Yeah, sort of like suffocating or some type of
Blunt
force
force
trauma. Exactly.
And she may have been suffocated with the plastic bag, or there might have been pressure applied to the neck. Bell said, quote, "There were findings at post-mortem consistent with assault, with such a manner of death in keeping with the circumstances in which her body was found. As to the actual mechanism of her death, perhaps the most likely cause had been some form of asphyxia.
Asphyxiation.
I cannot exclude the possibility that sharp force injury has been the cause of her death, or blunt force trauma," end quote.
And I wonder if they were trying to cut her up or...
Dismember?
Yes, that's a good word there. Couldn't think of it. Dismember her, and then found that to be a little more daunting of a task than they expected.
I think that's the dismemberment part. That's a special person for that one.
Takes a special kind.
Yeah, that's just like with most murders. A lot of people find it, I guess they would say it's an easier murder to shoot somebody because you don't have to be up close to them. You don't have to
Not
be.
up close and personal.
Yeah.
You don't feel the last breath go. You don't
You don't have.
see that
You don't have
spark
to
in their
fight.
eye.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
It's a.
It would be a daunting task to try to strangle someone.
Yeah, because that's a fight.
Yeah.
The cause of death was officially recorded as unascertained. So on May the 24th, Detective Robertson said, quote, Zoe was a popular girl and well known in the area. From our inquiry so far, we know Zoe left home on Saturday evening around 5 p.m. We would obviously be very keen to find out where she was and who she was with between then and 4:20 p.m. on Sunday. She was last seen wearing a gray tracksuit bottoms, a white long-sleeve t-shirt, and black Nike trainers. We will interview friends, her boyfriend, and her associates. End quote. Ross Hemphill, who hadn't seen Zoe on the day of her murder, was interviewed by detectives and ruled out as a suspect. That was the other guy, the other girl.
Yeah, I was going to say, wasn't that her sister's
Correct.
other boyfriend?
Correct. Police began checking CCTV and telephone records as well as interviewing friends and family and carrying out house-to-house inquiries. Witnesses reported seeing a fire on Monkey Hill at around 11:20 p.m. on the night of the murder. Detective Robertson said, quote, We know there was a fire at 11:20 p.m. on Saturday and exactly the spot where Zoe was found. You would need to know local knowledge to go there. We firmly believe that the answers in this case lie in this community. It had only gotten dark at 10 p.m., and it was the hottest day of the year, so there must have been people around this area, end quote.
So it was a local, known hotspot or
I
gathering
guess,
point.
probably. And it's probably a place where kids go out to go drink.
Teenagers go and hang out and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on May the 26th, police said that there had been a, quote, a poor response to their appeals, end quote, and launched a dedicated email address and SMS text number, citing concerns that witnesses may have been too afraid to come forward.
For that time, that was a good idea because, I mean, teenagers back in that day and time, they would rather text messages are getting big, emails, chat spaces. So, I mean, that was a good ploy.
Adding that they hoped the move would, quote, tempt witnesses from the so-called Bebo generation, end quote.
Bebo, I have not heard of that before.
So for those that don't know, the Bebo generation was the beginning of social media. Bebo was like a social media site that was big over there. Kind of like Facebook, MySpace.
Bebo was theirs. Ours was MySpace.
Yeah. So they hoped that this would get the Bebo generation to become more involved in the inquiry. They noted that dozens of people have flooded Zoe's page on the social networking site with tributes, and officers were desperate to tap into their local knowledge. Detective Robertson said that the response so far has been slower than we would have liked. We hope that by offering a new way to contact the investigation team that more people would come forward. Detective Constable Jennifer Bell, who had previously been seconded to the Metropolitan Police Service's SO 15 Counterterrorism Command, was brought into the inquiry to examine hours of recovered CCTV footage for sightings of Zoe. Detective Constable Bell, who had also used her skills in the aftermath of the July 7, 2005 London bombings and the 2007 Glasgow International Airport attack, eventually located an image of Zoe outside of a Scotmid cooperative store on Mance Road at 5:30 p.m. on May the 22nd. Police also received a confirmed sighting of her at 5:40 p.m. walking towards the Cambusnathan area, Cambusnethan.
Cambusnethan, yeah, but wouldn't put an A in there. Nethian.
I don't know.
Nathan.
Y'all can roast me in the comments. Tell me how to say it. I don't know how you're going to tell me how to say it. I'm looking at the word also, but so if you write it down, it's going to be the same. But Cambusnathan, I'm giving one of that. The CCTV stills of Nilsson on May the 27th to jog potential witnesses' memories, and police also announced that they had set up a page on Bebo in a bid to engage with the young people who may know something and could be useful to the inquiry, particularly those teenagers who have been reluctant to speak directly to police. Detective Robertson explained that the police were using new media for the first time in a murder investigation, as they believed that many of those who knew Zoe were teenaged or younger, and may not have wanted their parents to know where they were at or what they were doing at that time. He reassured potential witnesses that, quote, "If there are people out there underage drinking, I don't care. If there are people where they shouldn't be, I don't care. This is a violent murder investigation, and we need to solve it," end quote.
Did their employees bring in tips and leads?
By May the 28th, several witness reports have been received by the police. One sighting of Zoe at 5:15 p.m. reported that she had been with a man who was very drunk and was being violent towards her and, quote, punching her in the head, end quote.
Oh, it's where all the bruising could have came from.
Another witness said he saw Zoe walk past his garden in the Newmans in the company of a man with a tattooed face. A third witness had seen Zoe and a man of a similar appearance in the Newmans and said, quote, "He just looked angry," end quote, punching a lamppost as he walked by and saying that he was going to, quote, "kill some cunt tonight," end quote. One witness said that he overheard the man who was, quote, "angry and agitated," end quote, and saying that he would, quote, "end up killing someone tonight," end quote. Another witness heard him tell Zoe, quote, "This is all your fucking fault," end quote.
So did they not catch this unidentified man on any of the CCTV footage?
Not that I know of, no. While pointing angrily in her face, a 14-year-old girl also saw the pair together, boozing behind New Main's Asada. She said he was bare-chested and sunburnt, told her that his name was Rab Bain.
Rab, the sister's boyfriend?
Mm-hmm. Well, both of them's boyfriend.
Oh, Bain was both. Okay.
Yeah, Rab Bain. And had, quote, "asked me to rate his body like out of 10, end quote. She described how the pair were drinking alcohol and they claimed was stolen, the man drinking tequila and Zoe drinking vodka. A passerby reported seeing Zoe with a man with a facial tattoo outside the Scottman store in Newmains, where she was rubbing suntan lotion onto his sunburned back, which was red as a lobster, he said. She didn't look too happy. I thought it was a boyfriend-girlfriend thing. They must have gotten some in the shop because as they were walking away, the girl was rubbing something on the shoulders." A shirtless, sunburned man with a tattooed face was also seen wandering aimlessly on the evening of May the 22nd, attracting the attention of a family who had gathered to watch the 2010 UEFA Championship League final on television. One of the groups said what attracted attention was his hairstyle and his back was fiery red from the sun. Police also received information that Robert Bain had telephoned an acquaintance on May the 24th and asked for help to, quote-unquote, batter the last people to see Zoe.
But was it ever mentioned that Bain had facial tattoos? It looks like that would have jumped out immediately.
Although you'll see pictures, there'll be pictures of him on the screen. Crucially, the call was made before the body had been identified. The witness said, quote, "He asked me to help batter Ross Hemphill and Stuart Campbell, who had claimed were the last to see Zoe. I don't know why he said this because we didn't know if it was Zoe who was found," end quote.
Okay, yeah. Hemp Hill was the sister's
Correct.
other boyfriend.
Correct.
Okay.
Just before 6 p.m. on May the 28th, Robert Bain walked into the police incident caravan at Wishaw and said that he wanted to make a statement. The officer on duty, PC Robert Davies, said, quote, "The male appeared to be quite intoxicated. He was slurring his words," end quote. Bain said that he had been to Motherwell several days previously, and on a return journey, a man called Stuart Campbell had gotten onto the bus. He told PC Dave, quote, "I went up to Stuart Campbell and said to him, 'Were you with Zoe on Saturday night?' End quote. To which he claimed Campbell replied, quote, I killed her," end quote. As Bain began to give a description of Campbell, police detectives walked into the caravan and immediately detained Bain by snapping handcuffs on him. On the morning of May the 29th, Strathclyde police issued a statement saying, quote, "A 20-year-old man has been arrested and is presently detained in police custody in connection with the death of Zoe Nilsson. A full report will be sent to the Procurator Fiscal," end quote. Bain was detained in custody to appear at Hamilton Sheriff Court on June the 1st, 2010. At the brief court hearing, Bain made no plea or declaration and was remained in custody. During police interviews following his arrest, Bain insisted the last time that he had seen Zoe was on the morning of May the 22nd, after a chance meeting when he went to a local newsagent to buy cigarettes. He claimed he then spent the rest of the day at home. At a preliminary hearing at the High Court of Judiciary in Edinburgh on December the 1st, 2010, Bain entered a not guilty plea on all charges. A trial date was set for February of 2011. On January the 8th of 2011, Bain was transferred to HMP Greenock, where he was segregated from the main prison population for his own safety. Tests on the swab taken from Zoe's hand demonstrated the presence of Zoe's DNA and traces of another person's, which were found to match parts of Bain's DNA profile. DNA matching Zoe's and Bain's was found on both the tequila bottle and its lid found near the body. Marie Campbell suggested that the explanation for the presence of the DNA inside the lid was that both had been drinking from the bottle. Then the cap was put back on. She also said that the odds against that the DNA in the plastic sombrero lid coming from anywhere but Bain were 9.6 million to 1. The trial was held over 15 days at the High Court in Edinburgh. On March of 2011, Bain was charged that in a wooded area near Branchfield Drive, he assaulted Zoe, striking her on the body with a knife, repeatedly hitting her, putting a plastic sheet over her head to restrict her breathing, and by means unknown injuring her and setting her on fire. He was further charged with attempting to defeat the ends of justice, in that he washed and disposed of his clothes that he had worn at the time of the alleged murder, that he disposed of Zoe's mobile phone, and that he threatened her sister Laura Ann. Bain elected not to take the witness stand during the trial. It emerged during the trial that Zoe's sister Laura Ann had been shown Zoe's body by Bain on the morning after the murder.
Oh, wow.
But had kept the information from the police for 5 days. Laura Ann, who had gave her evidence from behind a screen to prevent her from seeing Bain, did not relay the information until she made her third statement to the police on May the 28th, the day of Bain's arrest. Laura Ann said that she had gone to Bain's address on the morning after Zoe disappeared in order to return some articles of clothing to him. When she arrived, she said he appeared jumpy and was drinking vodka. Shortly after that, the two had left the house and Bain told her that he had something to show her. She said that he had led her to the area where he had killed Zoe and pointed out the blackened body. She knew it was her sister because she recognized a Rangers FC tattoo on her arm. In her statement, she said, "At Monkey Hill, Rab said to me, 'I hit her with my hands. She tried to hit me back. Rab also said, 'I burned her with my petrol.'" She testified in court that she had kept silent because she was terrified of Bain. Although Neil Murphy, for the defense, produced other police statements in court in which she denied she had been threatened, admitted she had been out with Bain on the day after the body was discovered, and had also visited Bain and spent some time in his bedroom listening to music. She also spent about an hour on the telephone with him. A friend also described her as happy and normal during the period of silence. When asked why she hadn't told the police when she was first interviewed, she said, quote, "I did not tell them about this because I was scared my mom would have not believed me and think it was me that killed Zoe," end quote. Bain's grandmother testified that on the day the body was discovered, Laura Ann did not visit and he did not leave the house except to go with her to the local supermarket. On March the 25th of 2011, the jury of 7 men and 7 women returned unanimously verdicts of guilty on both charges. As the verdicts were read out, handcuffed Bain fought with the security guards and the police officers, headbutting one of them and shouted abuse at Laura Ann Nelson. Quote, "You have fucking got me for fuck all. You're a fucking wee cow. You're dead." End quote. He was forced to the ground in the dock as the judge, Lady Doran, left the bench and ordered the public to be cleared from the court. The hearing eventually continued without Bain, who was detained in the court's cells below. Sentencing was deferred for a social background and psychological report. On April the 27th of 2011, Bain was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 20 years for the murder and 6 years to be served concurrently for the second charge, and he is currently detained at HMP Edinburgh.
Did it state why he murdered her?
Bain launched an appeal against the conviction on August of 2011, alleging a lack of evidence about Zoe's cause of death. The appeal was abolished. Bain then appealed against the sentence, claiming that the 20-year minimum was excessive, and the appeal was dismissed January the 6th of 2012 by Lord Reed and Lord Brodie at the Court of Criminal Appeals in Edinburgh. Following the verdict, it was revealed that Bain had been released from prison after he had served an 18-month sentence for assault and robbery in Hamilton. Just 7 weeks before he murdered Zoe, he had been previously imprisoned on 4 occasions following convictions for drug charges, assault, and theft. Detective Robertson gave a statement to the media after the verdicts were delivered, saying, quote, "Zoe was a young 17-year-old girl with everything to live for. She had many friends and a loving family in New Mains. Robert Bain ruthlessly took her life and tried to dispose of her body in a cold-blooded attack. It was a particularly horrific crime, and now that Bain's been convicted, Zoe's family and the local community can hopefully try to move forward, knowing that Bain will not be a threat for a considerable amount of time. He showed no remorse for his vile actions or the effect that this murder had on Zoe's close family, who remained devastated by her loss. When the verdict was raised, you saw what he can do. So the streets will be a lot safer, and hopefully the Nelson family can move on knowing that he is behind bars." End quote. Lady Duran said, quote, "This has been a somewhat distressing case and a stressful one. It's a relief to know he's in prison, but it's not justice. He should be tortured like he tortured Zoe." End quote. Bain's grandmother said, quote, "I am so incredibly sorry for what happened. The lives of 2 families have been ruined by this tragedy." End quote. If there's anything out there to answer your question of if he said why he did this, I haven't seen it. I haven't found it yet. I mean, that could be a whole entire thing of him hoping to get out too, because this is a minimum 20-year sentence.
Yeah.
So that was he was sentenced in 2011. Didn't it say 2011?
2011.
So he's 13 years into it?
It could have been anything that led to it. Their drinking, their volatile, encounters with having 2 sisters.
Well, he had didn't it say he had already been out of prison or been in prison a couple times for assault too?
For assault, yeah.
So, I mean, he has a history to begin with also.
I always like to know why or what pushed someone over the edge, what caused it.
I do too. Some of these people like this, I don't think that there's necessarily here's what's caused it. It's just that's just what they do.
Yeah, that's true.
Because, I mean, if he's been in prison multiple times for assault and things, you know, then, I mean, it's
he's got a known track record.
Correct. One like this, I mean, I don't think it was just like somewhere down the line at some point in time he had to figure out that's something that he just enjoys doing. But as far as just like each individual time, I don't think that there was just like each individual time. There's just something that clicked for that particular time, possibly.
Yeah, I'm sure it probably wasn't premeditated. It just happened at that point. Just like with spousal abuse sometimes, you know.
Could have been the other sister with him.
Who knows?
Yeah. I mean,
I was wondering, too, if that other sister had something to do with it. Cause
possibly.
That was kind of odd, her behavior after she saw her sister, even though she was afraid.
Right.
That was odd behavior.
Anything you want to add?
I think that wrapped it up.
Well, everyone, glad you came by. For everybody that's still here, glad you hung out and listened to the story. We will be back again soon. And always remember, if you're going to burn something, it don't have to be a body. Have a good night, everybody.